Hello and welcome back to ICT and Computer Science with Miss Price. In my last video I discussed the theory of databases. In this video I'm going to show you briefly the practical uses of databases. In this video I will discuss validations, searching for information on databases and creating fields using data types. Don't forget to click on a link with the free activity in the description, and also please follow me on Twitter, which is at Miss Price Computer Science, at CSCI, and teachers, please do visit my shop on TESS. I hope you enjoy the video. So we're going to dive into the practical uses of databases, and we're going to set up a scenario. Now, the scenario is going to be the Little League Football Club. So you're probably thinking, oh no, it's Children's Football Club, seen lots of those. But this is actually a very real example. Now, the reason for that is because, now, I'm a teacher, obviously. I'm a practicing classroom teacher. But in the past, during summer holidays, I've actually been a summer camp manager. And when it comes to children, you do have to keep up with your paperwork. You do have to have paperwork to do with everything about that child, because children can't look after themselves. So it's down to you as the adult to make sure that you get to know the child, and you get to know any medical problems they may have, any injuries they may have, you know, and you're in charge as the adult looking after that child. Basically, you're their parent for that day, that afternoon, or that 2-hour after school club. So when it comes to children, you have to know everything. So this is actually a very, very real example. Plus, in the UK, we have Ofsted, which basically looks after children. So Ofsted going to visit schools, they're going to visit summer camps, as I've had an Ofsted inspection in the past, and they want to make sure that you are up to date with all the knowledge about those children. So the Little League Football Club for children accepts both boys and girls between the ages of 6 and 7. Each child that joins has to have an up-to-date record completed by a parent or a carer, or they cannot participate in events. Now, for the parent or carer to give you that information, they need to fill in a data capture form. Now, please don't be scared of the word data capture form, because just take off the word data and capture and you simply have form, and that's all it is. So what they have to do is, so their child can join, they have to fill in a form about the child. Now, here is a very basic example. Okay, so we want the name of the parent, we want the name of the child, their date of birth, their gender, address, contact number, school and date joined. Obviously, if you was to fill this out in real life, you'd probably want to know if the child has any medical issues, any allergies, any injuries. You'd probably, as you're running a football club, you'd probably want to know if they've played football before. Are they at a good level? Are they very knowledgeable? So, here we are. Here's a form that you may have seen. So this is an example. So you can see the address is split up to make it easier to perform searches. You can see there's good use of white space, for example. You can see the form's not crushed together, and each section has headings. And again, that is a basic example of a professional form. Here is an example of a professional form, but you can see this one's a lot more detailed. And you can see as well that they give the user guidance of how they want things filled out. So for example, date of birth will be day, month and year. Obviously there could be different variations of this, so it could be, for example, DD, MM, YYYY, so it'd have all 4 digits of the year. And also in some countries they put the month before they put the year. So it's always a good idea to make sure that you give the person filling in the form guidance of how they should give you the details so you understand them. So let's dive straight into it. Now, databases can contain many tables, but for now we're going to make a single table database. So let's go straight into our software. The software we're going to use is Access. Obviously there's other softwares that you may have used before. You may have used for example Oracle. There's many others, okay, but I've always have, and I've always used Access. So we're just going to create a simple blank database, and here we are. You can see Access automatically makes our tables. Now, so we've got a single use table here, and but obviously this can be filled up with tables. There could be many tables all relating to each other. So firstly, what we're going to look at is data types. Here we are, data types. So each field must be assigned a meaningful name and a table and data type selected. Okay, so if you watch my last video about databases, you should be aware of fields. So these are the data types here. So we've got text, and obviously text can be an example of A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. We've got date and time, and that's obviously, you can see the date there, 12th of November 2001 at 12:48. And then there's Boolean, which can be yes, no, on, off, male or female. So Boolean tends to be there's one answer or there's the other answer. So it is yes or no, it is on or off, male or female, 0 or 1, and so on. And then integer is just simply a number, so that number can be of a decimal place. And then very importantly, you select currency as well for money. Okay, anything to do with money goes into currency. So like pay or fees, refunds, etc. Right, so let's dive straight into this. So we're going to, first of all, we're going to create a table, because you can see our table's not really created here. So I'm going to go to, so up here I'm going to go to view, and if you go to the drop down menu, you've got data sheet view or you've got design view. So let's go into design view. They want us to name our table, so I'm going to name our table children. Press OK, and you can see it's already given us a primary key. Now the problem is with this primary key, and if you'd have watched my last video, you'll know that a primary key is a unique identifier. It's given us a primary key, so automatically called it ID, and it's given us auto number. So what auto number is going to do is just going to automatically number each record as 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, I'm going to change this, and I'm going to call it membership number. And I'm going to change, so I'm going to change the data type here. So look at the data type. What do you think I should be selecting? And if you said number or large number, well, you're wrong. Okay, I would select text, and I'll probably do it short text. Now the reason for this is because anything that isn't going to have a calculation that you're not going to do any maths with, you just call it text. Okay, so for example, phone number, you would select that as text, because if you don't, when you make it in a database, if the first number is 0, it cuts it out. And like I said, you don't do any mathematical calculations with phone numbers. So next thing we can look at is we want the name of the parent, and obviously we select that as text. So I'm just going to go short text. I won't select long text or anything really. Then we want name of child. Sorry. Again, I would select that as short text. Then you want the child's date of birth. So I'm going to put dates of birth. And obviously here we will be selecting date and time. So go here to format at the bottom, then you can select how you want the date to be. So I'm going to select the date, just a short, do this one, it doesn't matter, but a short date's easier. Then, so we said name of child, date of birth, name of parent, the school they attend, so the school that they actually go to. Again, we would select that as text. So we've got membership number, school they attend. Right, let me look back at my PowerPoint here. What did we say? So, gender. Yes, we need to know the child's gender. So you're probably thinking that's going to be Boolean, but it's not, because the trouble with the Boolean, the yes no, it just literally does yes no on or off. So I'm going to do that short text, then I'm going to show you a trick later that you can do to get what you want out of that. So gender, address, of course, and the date joined. So address, I would probably put that as long text, and date, date joined. And also what you could do is, because you may have to keep historic records of children as well, like I know that with the Data Protection Act, for example, in England, you have to keep records for up to 5 years. So you can even select whether they're a current member or not. And then you can select that as the Boolean, like yes or no, or on or off. So you can see the format here. You can see that it's yes or no, or on or off. So we've got true, false, yes, no, on or off. So I'm going to put yes or no. There we go. Right, now, so that's the data types done. So the next part that we're going to move to now, so we've done our selecting data types, is next one is creating validation. So I've got an example database for you that I'm going to show you and show you how to validate the database. So here's my example database. So I've just simply filled out a database of 10 records. This is all completely made up. This is not based on any real person at all. The addresses are all fictional, phone numbers are fictional, schools are fictional. Okay, so now first of all, the first thing you should always do is you should always look at a database, and you should always get to know the data types. You should always look at the information that's in there and get to know the database first. So you can see the membership numbers are here. If we take a look at the membership numbers, like MG001, MG002, then it goes to WT001 and 002. But let's go to the next field. So the next field is name of parent. So you can see name of parent, Sarah Richards, Ian Johnson, blah blah blah. Sarah Richards appears to be in there twice, and so does Chloe Jones. So let's look at the name of children. Sarah's got Mia, and then there's Ian Johnson who's got Chloe, and Sarah's also got Thomas. So, and then if we take a look at Mia's date of birth, you can see that she was born in 2012 and Thomas was born in 2013. So that tells me that Sarah has 2 children in the football club, and one is a year older than the other. So if we look at the date of birth, you can see that Mia is the older child. So then when we look at Chloe, she's got John and she's got Tommy, and they're both born on the same day. So that tells me that Chloe has twin boys. So now we look at the genders, and we can see that there's 3 females and several males. Then there's the addresses, they all live in London. Phone numbers. Then we look at the schools. You can see you've got 2 schools here called Maple Gardens and Willow Tree. Okay, so thinking about our membership number here, so we can see our membership numbers. So remember when I was talking to you in the last video about primary keys, and primary keys can be generated using the information on the database. So what I've done here is that I just simply generated the primary key based on the primary school that the child goes to, and just obviously in order of how they've joined. So the first one that's joined from Willow Tree is Jane's child Mark. Just as simple as that. Then we look at the date joined. See the date joined here is all on the same day. Now there could be several reasons for that. Maybe they've joined on the deadline. Maybe the club has only held one sign-up day, or maybe they actually joined on a certain day when they possibly could get a discount. Okay, now we don't need to know any more about that, so we've looked at that now. Now what we're looking at is we're looking at validations. So if you remember, I spoke to you about validating our database. So if you think about the word validation, it is what it says on a tin. So what you can do is you can actually fix your database so that only certain information can be entered. So also that there's no problems with entering data, there's no spelling mistakes, nothing like that. Okay, so you can see here that the mistake we've got here is that we've got Willow Tree Primary, but the rest of them just say Willow Tree, so I can take that out. Okay, and but that's not really validating our database, is it? So, right, now if we're going to design, I want to make a validation, and I can make validations right here. They're very simple. So I'm going to go here, and you can see I've got gender. It says F and M. Now someone might type in, so if there's several users for the database, so some people might type in male, or some people may type in girl. Okay, well we don't want that, okay, because that's just going to cause problems in our database. So if you know you can have more than one user of the database, well, you create a validation to prevent these mistakes from happening. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on to gender, and I'm going to create a validation rule. And my validation rule is going to be, well, just simply, you can only enter M or F. Nothing else. Nothing at all. And the validation text will say, and this is what pops up on the screen, okay, so is for gender, enter M, or for male, and F for female only. Then I go here, save the table. It says data integrity rules have been changed and may not be valid for new rules. Okay, so let's just take a look and see what happens. So I'm going to enter a new thing right here. So someone starting at Willow Tree Primary 007. Okay, and parent's name is going to be Denise Perkins. Why I've chose that, I don't know. And Denise Perkins is going to have, she's found out that there's not many girls in this group. She realised her daughter likes football, and a couple of her daughters have joined it after watching, you know, the England Women's World Cup. All of a sudden it's taken off, more girls are joining. So Denise Perkins has a daughter called Tia. So Tia Perkins. And Tia Perkins was born 5 days before her friend Mia. And they're both in the same class at school. So, and someone else is entering this database and said, oh, okay, you've got a lovely little girl. So, girl. Oh, for gender, enter M for male and female. Oh, sorry, I forgot to put F for female only. There we go. Okay, there we go. And now it won't let us move on any further. Okay, until we sorted that out. Sorry, you're probably screaming that in the video earlier. There we are. Okay, oh, for female only. Now, what other thing do we want to put in? So, this is a school. Many schools can probably join this football club, but maybe it only recognises schools within a certain area. Okay, so for example, validation rule. So Willow Tree or Maple Gardens, and maybe there's another school called Woodlands. Okay, so, and that's because there's only schools within a certain catchment area, and then it could be have schools outside are not accepted. There we go. So that's just a couple of ways. I mean, there's many ways to validate your database, and that's just a couple of ways that you can validate your database to prevent errors. There are many different validation rules that, you know, I can go through in another video and explain to you, but that's just 2 ways that you can validate your database. Right, so moving on. Obviously, you don't want to do overkill with the validations. You don't want a database with about 10,000 validations, because it can get ridiculous and that can become quite difficult. So, now getting information on your database. Right, as I said to you before in previous video, I explained that you are an expert on your database and you're quite skilled and you don't even realise it. You perform queries all the time. All the time. So, we can search our database. And it's very simple. Okay? Very simple. There are 2 types of queries. There are single criteria queries and there are multiple criteria queries. Plus, Access is such a wonderful thing that Access is such a wonderful thing that you can perform runtime calculations as well. So it can actually make calculations at runtime. And what I'm going to go through now is a few queries that you can perform in your database. To create a query, firstly, we go to Create. Then you go to Query Design. Personal details, add it, close. Obviously, if you had more tables here, you could add them. Double click up here, drag all the fields down. Obviously, if you had more than one table, you'd just drag the fields down that you need. So we can do all sorts of searches, like for example, if you wanted to search for all the female players in your database because there was a girls' football match coming up, you just simply type in F, run the query, and you can see all the female players will come up here in your database. If you wanted to search for all the female players that probably go to Willow Tree Primary School, for example, then you'd go to the school field, type in Willow Tree, and run the query. So you can see we've got one player that goes to Willow Tree Primary. Now that's obviously not enough for a football team, is it? So that is a multiple criteria query. Obviously you can do queries with operators, for example, like and or not. So if you put in, for example, female players, not Willow Tree, so all the female players that don't go to Willow Tree Primary, then you can see I've got 2 results in my database right here. The same as you can do searches with numbers. Obviously we don't have many numbers in here. So for example, if I wanted all the membership numbers that had 001 in them, then I could run a wildcard query. So I'll put in star 001, and then it should bring up all the membership numbers that have 001 in them. And that's how you can search through your database. So that's just a couple of examples right there of how we can search through our database. And obviously you could do more complex calculations, like for example with fees and so on. If you go on to my videos from my IGCSE ICT in the databases, I'll show you them there too. So now I was talking about calculations that you may be able to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a calculation with the date of birth. So I might want to see the month that the child was born and so on. So here we go. So if I type in, for example, month, and then now to perform a formula, you need to open up the brackets. Okay. Then you need to put in for date of birth the parentheses. So anything to do with sorry, I'm getting stuck for words here for some reason. Sorry, anything to do with fields, if you're putting in field names, they have to go inside the parentheses. So there we go, date of birth, close the parentheses and close the brackets, and then we put in equals month. And then we're going to perform a calculation called now. Okay, so this will tell you the data. So if you type in, for example, on a spreadsheet equals now function, it gives you the date now. So let's see what this does here. So let's run this query, and we can see that one person comes up as a date of birth for 2012. For the month now, and you can see the month is August, so here is the person whose birthday is this month. So that's what that calculation does there. So that's just a couple of ways that you can experiment with queries in a database. So right, so thank you for watching. So for getting information from our databases, you can do this more in depth using the free activity I've got underneath in a description for you, which also has some screenshot examples and a user guide. So thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe my videos. I'm uploading videos every week. Also, please do like the videos. Teachers, visit my shop on TESS. Resources going to go up there throughout the year. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Miss Price CSCI, so Miss Price Computer Science. And like I said, please do continue to practice. The best way to learn databases and to understand them is to practice them. So click on the link in the activity. Sorry, click on the link in the description for the free activity, where I have an example database for you. I have a user guide on how to perform queries, and I also have a user guide on how to import data. Thank you very much.